Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Rick and Morty Night Family. And I overall thought this was a pretty decent episode. There wasn't much to it, just exploring a kind of crazy situation that kind of occurs, but I thought that they did a pretty decent job of exploring the kind of crazy concept of it. So we see that Beth is having trouble sleeping because Jerry's snoring. She's trying to use a sheep counting app, but that's not working. So she gets downstairs and then she sees Rick fucking doing some shit, and she's trying to talk to him, but he's not having any of it. He's doing sit-ups in his sleep and everything. And then we get to the next morning, and Beth was like, "What the fuck was up with you last night?" "Oh, that's my night person. So I have this thing that I got, this ambulator, and it lets me kind of program shit to do in my sleep, and I'm just getting a ton more done." And everyone's like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." And they kind of want to do stuff with it, and then Summer's kind of snarkiness kind of forces him, "Fine, alright, here it is. It needs a blood sample and shit like that." And Jerry's like, "Hey, can I just give it a credit card?" It's like, no you can't. And of course they do it. Jerry passes out. We see them kind of doing what they kind of want to do. Summer's learning Spanish for a class. Beth is doing trumpet. Yes, trumpet. And Morty is doing it for the abs because that's kind of what Rick was doing as well. And then they have an ab podcast and are like, "Yeah, we're going to get Nancy Pelosi on." It's like, all right. There was no real kind of thing other than just a name drop there. I'm like, all right. It would have been weird if they actually did something with the Nancy Pelosi thing, but I'm like, all right, just name drop the kind of thing. Doesn't really bother me or anything. It's just utilize it if you're kind of gonna try and do it. They did something with justices and Supreme Court justices at one point. Okay, this is just them having a podcast and doing ab stuff, and then doing stuff with sponsors. It's okay. So we see everybody doing kind of good stuff. Jerry, for some reason, becomes pen pals with his night person, and then just writes different kind of stuff going on with that. But then we start seeing that it starts escalating, and the thing is, the night family wants them to do a better job of rinsing their dishes. And Rick's like, "Fuck that shit." And that is pretty much the catalyst and pretty much the whole motivating conflict of this whole thing. Beth's night person, for some reason, is "I'm the one in charge here, motherfuckers, and we're gonna take over your day shit." And Rick's adamantly not doing anything with cleaning the plate so that way it doesn't get gunk and shit. Now granted, Night Jerry is kind of more on their side, but we see that it starts getting further and further where first Summer scrapes all the dirty shit into Rick's mouth as he then vomits it up. They even pretty much had it so that the Night Rick made sure that he couldn't use any of his tech or whatnot. And he even gets to a point where he's trying to get out of the radius of the whole Sonambulator kind of thing, but they pretty much built it to extend it to a pretty big kind of point, and they then start being used as the Night Family was being used to do all these other different kind of various tasks and whatnot, and Morty being forced to do sit-ups and all that kind of stuff, and there's drones and all that. Summer tries to figure out what's kind of going on, and that's where she finds out the whole thing with the extended field and all that, but then it gets to a point where they're of course captured and they try to escape, but of course Rick's car blows up. They're trying to escape in the usual kind of family van as they're switching back and forth as they're going back to sleep and waking up and everything like that, because Night Jerry tried to help them escape and is pretty much against the family at this point. And it's kind of interesting seeing them kind of getting each other woken back up. You see at one point that Rick and Morty are fighting each other and then headbutting each other, which knocks out one but wakes up the other, and they keep constantly kind of doing that a little bit. And it's okay. And they finally pretty much get into a position where they ask Rick to just clean the fucking dishes, and he's like, no, and the Night Family pretty much takes over, but they don't know how to do any of the day stuff, and it just all goes to shit. And Night Rick's like, "I got a solution to this." Takes out a gun, and you're thinking he's going to kill all themselves, but they know they destroy the Sonambulator thing, and they wake up as "Oh, it couldn't have been that long." And then the ending kind of joke is that they took out the Choco Taco, and it's yeah, I get that. Choco Taco was That was a thing. I mean, I used to like it as when I was younger, mainly because it had like this strip of like fudge that they had in it, but then they changed it to a certain point. I'm like, that strip isn't there anymore. I'm like, huh. But it was interesting to see that kind of like pop up because you'd seen that the Knight family went on all these kind of vacations and everything like that, did all this kind of shit, but then they're like, ah shit, the car's repossessed, we're getting fucked over. Not Beth, Summer got locked out of her Twitter account and didn't remember the password, which is interesting because it shows that like the subconscious can't sometimes access things that the conscious mind has done, such as like creating a password. So I thought that was kind of a little funny thing, and it was just a kind of fun fuck around kind of episode. I think that they could have done some better kind of escalations on certain things, but I don't think this was a very bad episode or whatnot. This is a nice kind of episode of the week, detailing with certain kind of lore that we've had before. I do think it's interesting that they keep on going with that. Yes, portal technology has been fucked over because of everything that happened, and having that as a consequence is cool because it kind of forces them to scale down certain things and get us back to some more personal kind of stuff like this kind of episode. So I'm intrigued to see what else will be going on in this season, and if it keeps up this quality, I think I'll be happy with it. And if you're not happy with it, I totally understand. You can be hit or miss with certain kind of things with comedy, and depending upon how stories are set up and executed. But I've been having fun, and I can't wait to see kind of what else happens in the show. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.